Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 19 of the anime series Akagami no Shirayuki-hime, or Snow White with the Red Hair. And this was such a brilliant episode. The writers of the series, the plotters, are pretty clever, I have to say, because I had a speculation bomb drop going 2 episodes back now in my episode 17 review, about 9 minutes in, I think. Checked up on it before getting into this review. I had a speculation that I put forth based on some of the dialogue, being spread by Kazuki, and some of the things being said by, Umihebi, the Claw of the Sea pirate leader woman and everything. Talking about, referencing the leader of the Lions of the Mountain as Pops in Kazuki's case, and talking about bringing Shirayuki back home, back to where she belongs, and the idea of Umihebi saying, you can't return home, we're not going to let you return home. And she seemed to be a little bit out of the loop as to what was going on with all of that, like why people were so after apple-headed girl, as they call her, and all this kind of stuff. And I had speculated, put forth, is this going to be a situation where she's being returned to a parent or something, either she didn't know she had or somebody long lost to her, and how interesting a contrast that would be for this very erudite young woman who is part of a kingdom and very learned, very intellectual, and to find out that her dad is, for all intents and purposes, kind of like a pirate or a vigilante or something along those lines. He's not quite a pirate, but, that is how this plays out with the end bumper of this particular episode, the cliffhanger ending, if you will. If we're to take it seriously, Shirayuki just looks at the leader of the Lions of the Mountain and is like, Dad? And I almost lost it. I almost frickin' lost it. Like, I was almost like, I called it. I was going to insert the clip of the video where I called it. It was speculated into this video. Figured, nah, never mind. If you want to go back and check that out. About 9 minutes in, episode 17 review. And so that really excited me because the cleverness of the writing and the pacing, I had completely sort of forgotten about that. I just assumed with what we were told in the last episode that Kazuki was really doing this because he wanted to save Shirayuki, and he had this very honorable intention, thinking she was endangered by Raj and everything like that, had to be forced to leave Tanbarun and go to Clarinus and everything like that, and he was under the impression she was living a very hardened life and, having to live a life of servitude and slavery and all those kinds of things that is in Kazuki's background himself. And so I had completely eschewed the idea of, well, maybe this is, something where it's going to be her father or parent or something like that. Like, just put it off to the side, like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't the case after all. And sure enough, boom, here it is at the end of the episode with the cliffhanger, Dad. So, like, I got goosebumps. I was so chomping at the bit at that moment. I was like, oh, hell yes, the validation, it actually did mean something. That was frickin' awesome sauce. But I gotta say, the entire episode was adventurous and had me on the edge of my seat, and really just everyone, again, coming together and being led out to sea by, the Claw of the Sea, into the blue vortex, this maelstrom, and it felt very much Pirates of the Caribbean-esque, and certain elements of, I think it's Final Fantasy XII, where they go out to the edges of the sea, and there's this giant, Pirate Cove-esque bastion and all this kind of stuff, and they're using Kiholt's birds to track Shirayuki on the open sea. And you have Raj. Raj, stole this episode for me as far as just manning up and coming to the fore and really commanding all of these other, sort of seafaring people in this town, people moving goods and all that kind of stuff, and transporting all that kind of stuff. For him to personally come out, be motivated in spite of his own fear to ask them for help, and motivated by the idea of taking down these pirates who are causing so much havoc, kidnapping people, trying to sell them into slavery and the slave trade, all that kind of stuff, stealing goods, killing people. Something has needed to be done. And I love the world building, the foundation building of the future promise of Raj as a prince and potentially a leader, a king. He's finding his way and he's learning his way through the motions of being very motivated to go after and rescue Shirayuki, and being motivated by seeing the kind of honorable young prince Zen happens to be. He's, you have Sakaki standing in the background, his sort of manservant, his, protector, the Mitsuhide to Raj's Zen, if you will, very much observing him and being surprised time and time again that Raj is stepping up to the plate and making these command decisions when they're faced with this maelstrom. How are we going to get around this? How are we going to follow the Claw of the Sea's vessel? And Raj, he hears a couple of things about, the 10-second time limit of the change of the tide and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, F it. We got to do this. We got to man up. We got to go after her. We got to find our way through, because we don't know what's on the other side of that, what's going to happen to her. We may lose her forever. And he mans up and he gives the commands, and then of course he gets seasick, which is comical. He doesn't have sea legs. He's still being carried around on Sakaki's shoulders when they're in the pirate cove, with all the water and everything. He doesn't want to get wet, whatever. It's endearing, and it's just perfect for his characterization. That's exactly who Raj is. But I like that we're seeing the evolution, and no more clear cut are we seeing that than in this episode. Taking command, sort of bolstering the command of hundreds of men and all these various other ships. This whole fleet follows Raj into what they presume to be battle, going after the Claw of the Sea once and for all. And it was just so elating to see Raj, who has really risen on the rungs of favorite characters in the series for me. The more we're getting to know him, the more we're getting to see him evolving and actually maturing and growing up. It's still a little bit of an uphill battle. He still has hurdles to get over, but he is making leaps and bounds. And it's so satisfying. I frickin' loved it. And like everyone throwing down, when they finally do get into this pirate cove and they've got, the Claw of the Sea cornered effectively. And I was wondering the whole time, because we know Keyhall's birds are leading Zen and everybody to effectively this ship. Like, I guess they took the long way around to sort of ambush them on the other side, because there's like this castle on a hillside or whatever it is, and all of that, all the background animation as usual, was really exquisite and gorgeous, especially that sort of lone moment between Zen and Shirayuki in the cave, and it's lit up by firelight, and they embrace, and she sheds tears. She's finally able to get that sense of relief and just let it all out, the frustration and the fear she's had being so far removed. Even with Kiki at her side, it's just so tumultuous what she's been through, and not knowing how this is going to play out. So all of that stress finally releases, and that whole backdrop of that scene was just beautiful. But when Zen, Obi, and Mitsuhide, they all show up and they start throwing down, they start kicking all kinds of ass, Claw of the Sea ass, I was just like, yes, hell yes. Like, it's funny to me, 2 episodes back, the same episode discussion video I was talking about, and basically calling the fact that maybe this guy was going to be a relation of Shirayuki's and everything like that. Seeing that come to fruition in this episode, again, was awesome sauce. But in that same episode discussion, I was kind of saying, like, okay, first we have Kazuki kidnapping her, then Kazuki and Shirayuki are dually kidnapped, and like, what the hell is going on? WTF is going on? And it was kind of dissatisfying to me, because I really, like, at the moment, I thought they were going to stick with the focus on, this ball that was going to be taking effect in Raj's kingdom, and dealing with Obi and Raj in their own ways, dealing with how they feel about Shirayuki and all that kind of stuff. And at the time, that seemed to feel a little more interesting than the direction of, uh-oh, now we have her kidnapped, and now we got pirates, and now we, this culmination. And the last episode as well. Like, I really thoroughly enjoyed the last episode, finding out what Kazuki's motivations were, or at least in part. And this whole episode, seeing these characters literally, the mouse chase of the Claw of the Sea vessel and rescuing Shirayuki and everything coming to this fruition, made it all ground-swellingly worth it. Just so satisfying. And with Shirayuki's tears and crying, that sense of relief, it's satisfying to me as well to see her having been rescued. And like, I do have to wonder, I am very curious to know what is now going to happen with characters like Mihaya, Kazuki, you know, the leader of the Lions of the Mountain. Now that we see purportedly he is dead, what's going to happen with Shirayuki now? What is that relationship going to be like? Is there going to be a relationship? Is he going to just sort of leave her be and all these kinds of things, like, you know, let her have her life in cleverness and all that kind of stuff? How is that going to affect, like, it would be interesting to find out, oh, he's like a king of sorts, you know, so now she's a princess, and now they don't have to worry about, you know, Prince Zen marrying somebody who isn't, you know, like a commoner waif or whatever. So, like, I mean, just so many interesting things come out of this now, and it's just another brilliant, you know, stepping stone along the chapters of this unfolding story. Oh, I love this series. I really do. And so I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 19 of, you know, Akagami no Shirayuki-hime, Snow White with the red hair. If you were surprised, you know, I mean, I could see some people not seeing that coming, and I just kind of put it out there as a loose speculation. Could this be something tying back to, you know, the parentage of Shirayuki? And I want to learn more about that now that we have that revelation. But if you didn't see that coming, let me know in the comments below. If you did, if you were aware that was probably where it was going, you know, without posting spoilers, just sort of speculatory-wise, you know, if you had any ideas like that, let me know in the comments below. If you found this episode satisfying, if you found it dissatisfying, our POVs can certainly disagree, and I just love having the conversation, you know, all about it. I mean, this is such a great series, and so yeah. Otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.